Have you ever twisted yourself in knots for a man and, said yes when you meant no, or dropped everything to be there, just for the slightest thing, or stayed quiet when you were hurting because some part of you believed that's just what love is? If you lived through childhood trauma, this could be a trap that you've fallen into, where you learned early that love meant, performing niceness, to give whatever you had to give, even when you got nothing back. Now, I love men, and actually this advice applies to men too, if you're in a relationship where you're giving a lot and not getting anything back. Now, I love men. I'm married to a good one. I have many dear male friends. I have sons, but I'm here to tell you there are things never to do for a man, no matter what he says. And yes, what I'm going to teach you can also apply to women. This is about not losing yourself in relationships where the other person doesn't treat you right, or their intensity or their complicated needs take up all the oxygen in the relationship. Have you ever done that? Just kind of like had the life sucked out of you? You don't always see it coming, do you? And it can become a pattern that you do not want to repeat. So how does this happen? When you grow up with trauma, especially when your needs were ignored or you had to fight to be loved, it's easy to think that bending yourself to someone else is just what is necessary to get love back. And if you were neglected as a kid, it's something that you may have been conditioned to do just to get your basic needs met. And a lot of us, without thinking, carry that kind of trauma-driven behavior into adulthood, especially into our romantic relationships. It helped you before, but now it's undermining you. And you find yourself calling this yielding to what you don't actually want. You call it like, I'm just being understanding, or I'm being there for him. And you tell yourself, well, he's had a lot of trauma. He can't be expected to give anything back, or whatever you tell yourself. But what you're doing, if we're going to be honest, is betraying yourself slowly, repeatedly, and every time it chips away at your confidence, at your energy, at your ability to trust your own judgment. And you can lose years of your life stuck in bad relationships that only work because you hide how you feel, what you think, what you need. And I want to show you how you can break out of that. So I used to think if I really liked a guy, I had to go to any lengths necessary to get him to like me, to not leave. I have too many stories to count where I was called names, I was laughed at, I got relegated to the role of the side chick and pretended I was happy being just friends. I'd end up taking care of them when I barely knew them, like taking time off from work to help out some guy I'd gone on 2 dates with. And next thing you know, without my permission, he had moved into my house. I came home one day and I had left him the key for something, and he had moved all this stuff in and some animals and said it would only be 2 days and put in shelves in the kitchen without asking me. I think it was like a manipulation to make me say okay to him staying there. And it was like way too much. And I was afraid to speak up, and I was afraid to have the conversation or throw him out because I did not know how to set a boundary against that. He had asked something that was way over the line for me, way over the line, and I went into freeze mode about it. So I've talked to thousands of women and men who have done this too in one form or another. And if it keeps happening, it's not just about picking the wrong person. It's about not knowing, what love really is. And so it's very easy to sort of put up with stuff that is just not love. So I want to tell the truth. If love requires you to fake who you are or violate yourself, it's not love. It's not going to become love. Because real connection doesn't require you to abandon your values or your needs or your safety. When someone asks you to do that, they're not asking for connection. They're just meeting their own needs. And usually they don't even have to ask, do they? You know what I mean? Because those of us with attachment wounds will just roll out the red carpet anyway and put up with any amount of chaos or coldness or mistreatment, thinking we have no choice, that this is going to be the only path to love. And once you see that clearly, you can start creating structure for yourself, not in a defensive, guarded way, but in a calm and powerful and wise way. And it can help for you to get clear and write down what you are never going to do again or at all, because it only tears you down. So here are 10 things you should never do again for a man. No matter how sweet his voice is, no matter how sad his story is, no matter how in love you feel. All right? 1, never silence your gut feeling. If you feel that squirmy twist in your stomach or your heart starts racing when he asks for something, that's your nervous system telling you something doesn't feel right. Trust it. Don't rationalize it away. Don't call it overreacting. Step back when this happens and say, I have to think about this. I need some time. Right? Number 2, never cover for his lies. If you're in a situation and you're with a man who lies to someone, to his ex, his kids, your friends, his boss, and you're expected to back him up or stay silent, you are getting yourself in a mess, and it's only going to get messier. So don't help him hide the damage. It's not your job, and it's also a big red flag that he lies. Number 3, never say yes to sex when your heart says no. I don't care how long you've been together. I don't care how nice he's been all week. If you're not feeling it, it's a no. And if he sulks or guilt trips you, that's not intimacy. That's manipulation. And traumatized people can be very, very susceptible to that. If you think that trauma in your childhood is affecting your ability to have healthy relationships, I can tell you the signs. I've got them listed in a free PDF download, and I will link that in the first line, the top line of the description section below this video. So all you have to do to get your copy is click on that link, you get the instructions, and the PDF will be emailed to you. Number 4, never take on the fixer role. You're not his therapist. You're not his rehab. You're not his mom. And if he's got hard problems in his life and he's not dealing with them, that is not your assignment. You can accept him as he is, or you can not accept him as he is, which is often just the truth of the relationship where you have the urge to fix. You don't actually accept him. And this is common for those of us who grew up with dysfunctional parents and those of us who feel paralyzed at the thought of allowing a relationship to end. That's an abandonment wound, but letting go of a chaotic person you think could be better if they'd only change is a very healthy kind of letting go. And I promise you, it makes space for people who do fit your life and who you do accept just as they are. And this is the shortest road to true love, by the way. Number 5, never give him money you can't afford to lose. This one's simple, and this is about dating relationships. If he needs a loan and you give it to him, you've just undone the delicate structure of a dating relationship and shifted what ties you together from getting to know you to a dependency dynamic. And trust me, it throws everything off, and this puts a terrible strain on the relationship. Now, you might be tempted to show that you trust him or that you're generous, or you may think in some traumatized part of you that helping him like this will keep him attached to you. But probably, mostly, you're unclear how to say no. That's what it is. And you're afraid you'll ruin the relationship, and you're volunteering to eat all the weirdness of the situation. Just absorb the problem and pretend that you didn't just do that. Number 6, never move in too soon. If he pushes for a big commitment before you really know him, be careful, especially if you've got a history of painful relationships. Fast bonding often covers up red flags. That's kind of a lot of the motivation for moving fast in a relationship is some unconscious urge to lock it down. So that may be where he's coming from, or you may be the one pushing to live together. But I'm telling you, don't move in too soon. Allow time to just sort of see what he's like, to see what he does when there's disappointment, to see how you do together, to see if there is a commitment there to be together. Moving in with somebody where there is no commitment will almost always lead to just headache and heartache. Number 7, never ditch your friends or your goals for him. A man who needs you to drop everything else to prove your love is not a secure man. That's control. A healthy partner wants you to have a life, to have friends and dreams and boundaries. Number 8, never tolerate cruelty. And that includes name calling, mocking you, using your trauma against you, or dismissing your pain. If you were trained to minimize abuse growing up, cruelty might feel familiar, and that doesn't make it okay. All right, number 9, never stay because you're afraid to start over. This is the big one. This is one of the most dangerous ones too, though. Fear of being alone is a common trauma symptom, but no relationship is worth your self-respect. The longer you stay in something toxic, the harder it is to find your way out. So why do we do this? Why do so many women, especially those of us who are hurt or neglected as kids, keep giving and giving even when it costs us? Because we're afraid. Afraid that if we say no, he'll leave. And afraid that if we have standards, we'll be too much. We're afraid that if we ask for what we want, we'll scare him off and end up alone again. And it doesn't matter how strong or smart you are. When you've been through trauma, especially in relationships, that fear is like right there. And it gets mixed up with hope. You want this to work out. You think maybe, just maybe, if you love hard enough, if you don't rock the boat, this time it's going to be different. And that fear of being abandoned and rejected and left behind, and it drives some of the worst decisions that we make in love. We lower our standards. We tolerate bad treatment. We pretend we're fine when we're not, all to avoid this awful feeling of someone pulling away. But here's what most people don't realize. Most of the time, it's not even true. They don't leave. They might get uncomfortable. They might push back, especially if they're used to you saying yes to everything. But what actually happens is they realize that you have a spine. People with a spine are attractive. And for people who are capable of love, it's not a turnoff to have boundaries. It makes them respect you more. So people don't bond with you because you shrink and you just go with whatever. They connect with you when you are yourself, when you're honest, clear, and grounded. Boundaries don't scare away healthy people, they attract them. Boundaries are what make a relationship real. Now, yes, once in a while, someone will walk away when you stop overgiving and you start expecting to be treated well. But that's not a failure. That's information. Let them walk away. They've just shown you what that they were for. They're not for love, okay? It was control, or it was attention, or it was convenience for them. You don't need that in your life. You're not here to be someone's emotional crutch. You're allowed to expect better. You're allowed to say no. And if someone walks away because of that, that's how you find out. Just quick and clear that someone was never meant to be with you. Here's the good news. You don't have to become cold or selfish to stop overgiving. You don't have to blow up your life. You just have to start telling the truth with kindness and with standards. And remember, having standards requires you to know what your standards are. And you are the one who has to be clear about them. You're the one who needs to know what you want, right? When you're honest about what you want and when you live by your values, you become trustworthy. You become someone people can rely on, and that's attractive, not just romantically, but in every part of your life. Setting boundaries isn't about demanding perfection from other people, and it's definitely not a license to act out or expect others to put up with your worst behavior. And just because you got past the early dating stage and now the relationship has stood the test of time, you still need boundaries. That goes both ways. You want respect, you show respect. You want honesty, you tell the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. You want to be treated well, you stop tolerating bad treatment and you stop dishing it out to yourself by controlling your feelings and words to try to make someone else like you. Now, the goal is not control. The goal is love. You will only ever be loved for who you really are. And any fake version of you is not sustainable, no matter how great the other person is. And if you're a man listening to this, the same rules apply. You don't need to bend over backward to prove your worth. You don't have to put up with anyone who disrespects you either. A healthy relationship is never about one person doing all the adjusting. It takes two people, both taking responsibility, both being real, both choosing to stay in truth and integrity, even when it's hard. So how do you find people like this? I can tell you the signs to look for. I've got a free PDF called Signs That Someone is Partner Material. And if you want your own copy of it, I'll put a link to that in the second line of the description section below this video. Love is not just a feeling, okay? It's a way of living, and it's how you bring strength and goodness into someone else's life. not by disappearing yourself, but by showing up fully, honest, present, clear about who you are and what you stand for. And when that love is returned, when both people are choosing it, they're building it, they're giving that love, it becomes something steady, something nutritious, something that heals. And this is what you're moving toward, not just avoiding pain, but creating something good. And every time you tell the truth, every time you refrain from seizing connection with others at any cost, and instead you stay true to who you really are and what you really want, you take a step closer to real love. If you like this video, I've got one that you're going to love right here, and I'll see you very soon. Does the fear of abandonment or of being alone cause you to stay in negative relationships? Staying way past when we wanted to leave, but the thought of leaving was unbearable.